Take a look at our top story that we are tracking for you. Moderna and Pfizer claim that they have made a breakthrough in developing a COVID-19 vaccine. Their respective vaccine contenders are more than 90% effective, showing promising results. The question is, how will these vaccines reach Indians? Moderna is looking to produce 20 million vaccine doses by the end of this year. Meanwhile, Pfizer is expecting to produce 50 million vaccine doses in the same time frame. The Indian government is currently in talks with both Moderna and Pfizer. An Indian government source said, and I quote, "The government is in dialogue with both domestic and international vaccine manufacturers. Not only with Moderna, the government is also in communication with Pfizer, Serum Institute, Bharat Biotech, and Zydus Cadila for their COVID-19 vaccine candidates in terms of safety, immunogenicity, and efficacy." According to the new drugs and cosmetic rules of 2019, drugs and vaccines will need to undergo phase 2 and 3 clinical trials in India in order to secure regulatory approval in the country. This applies to any new drug or vaccine which has been tested and received regulatory approval outside of India as well. So even if countries like the US and the UK receive the potential vaccine, its delivery to Indians may be delayed until the time that the drug completes phase 2 and 3 trials in India. Moreover, Moderna does not have an arrangement to supply its vaccine in India yet. One of the biggest concerns is the cold chain logistics. India has 28,000 units of cold storage network. The distributing of Pfizer's vaccine, which has to be stored at minus 75 degrees Celsius, is challenging for India. Now, experts say that India requires to significantly ramp up its cold chain facilities, and they also believe that it will take time for the vaccine to reach the developing countries, which are yet to create the infrastructure to store and transport the vaccines. Now let's take a look at the status of India's homegrown vaccine, the Bharat Biotech, which is developing Covaxin. It says that the candidate is in phase 3 of the trials, and the clinical trial will involve 26,000 participants and will be conducted in partnership with the Indian Council of Medical Research. Now, volunteers will receive 2 intramuscular injections 28 days apart. Covaxin has been evaluated in about 1,000 subjects in phase 1 and 2 of the clinical trials. Vaccines undergoing trials in India need to be kept between 2 to 8 degrees Celsius until delivery. Now, the Union Ministry of Health and Family Welfare is hoping to distribute 400 to 500 million doses of the vaccine by the middle of next year. Stephen Evans, who is a professor of pharmacoepidemiology at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, joins us now for more on this. Thank you for being with us. Now, Moderna and Pfizer have given the world much needed hope with their promising COVID-19 vaccines. Can you take us through these 2 candidates specifically?
The efficacy of each of them is about 90%. You can't really draw any conclusion that the Moderna vaccine at 94% is really any different to the Pfizer vaccine at 90% efficacy. They are both compatible with wide ranges of efficacy, because what counts in the trials is how many people in the treated and in the comparison group, either a placebo group or an alternative vaccine, how many of them get COVID-19. And in each of these trials, the reported data so far is 94 or 95 people. And even with 5 or 8 people, as I estimate for the Pfizer vaccine, getting the disease, the uncertainty in the exact efficacy is considerable. It could be down as low as 80% for the Pfizer vaccine, probably 86% for the Moderna vaccine. So don't try and draw a difference between these two based on 90 and 94%. The big differences, as you hinted in your remarks earlier, is in their cold chain requirements. The Pfizer vaccine requires storage at minus 70 or minus 80 for longer term storage. It may well still be able to be kept in ordinary freezers for a certain time, whereas the Moderna vaccine is capable of being used in India really fairly easily because it doesn't require the same sort of low temperature.
Right, Professor, on that, some of these challenges obviously are big and still lie ahead in terms of the logistics and the storing of these vaccines. You have mentioned the Pfizer vaccine needs to be stored at minus 70 to 75 degrees Celsius. How is this kind of logistics going to be achieved?
Well, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to be very difficult in the UK and the US, never mind in India. And so there are challenges with that, and there are other vaccines, one being originally developed by Imperial College in London, similarly requires that kind of low temperature for its long-term storage. So I think that for other countries, vaccines that do not have those low temperature requirements are likely to be more suitable for those countries.
Right, and there was a story last week about Pfizer being able to transport their vaccine in a powder form and allowing it to be activated at site. Is that possible?
Well, I'm not an expert who they will know whether their vaccine is capable of doing that. The problem is, of course, that we haven't done the trials on the vaccine under those conditions. So we would need to repeat those trials. What is encouraging for Moderna is that they are part of the CEPI agreement. That's the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness in Innovations. And that has a real commitment to making vaccines available in low and middle income countries. And that is really important for global health. On
global health, we know that some countries, including the US, the UK and others, have already pre-ordered huge quantities of vaccines, even before they were tested and proved efficacy. But this kind of vaccine will only work if it is distributed globally. Is that how it works?
Well, it will work when it is given to anyone in principle. It's the vaccination that works, not the vaccine. It's the process of doing that. But because we are a global community, unless we have the whole world suppressing the virus, then it will appear in countries which might have suppressed it, but because they have not helped other countries, perhaps poorer countries, to have the vaccine, then they will have the virus imported. So we are a global community, and no one can stand alone in this, in my view.
Right, and in your view, just how soon, realistically, should we expect to be safe and vaccinated and able to return to normal living?
I think for the whole world, it might be the end of 2021. I don't think it will be substantially before that, but it could be. We simply do not know.
Absolutely. Professor, thank you very much for your time this evening joining us here on WION.
Thank you very much.